Okay, we should be live. So good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. So my name is Kiyomi Knox. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at Center of Life. And we're super excited to have Green Building Alliance with us to be able to present on green cleaning 101 techniques for us at home. We've had this workshop before, but it was during the pandemic and it is back by popular demand. So all of y'all that are joining us live here on Zoom and all those that got registered, we'll make sure that you get your own little green cleaning kits, which we're super excited about. But I want to go ahead and introduce Leslie Montgomery. So Leslie is the Vice President of Education and Communications at Green Building Alliance, and she's going to go ahead and present this awesome workshop for us. And if there's any questions, you can go ahead and put those in the chat. If any of y'all are watching on Facebook, go ahead and put those into the comments there, and I'll make sure that we get those answered for y'all. So Leslie, you can go ahead whenever you're ready, and I'm going to spotlight you.
Thank you, Kiyomi, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to pull up my presentation and get it started here. And you can see that, right, Kiyomi? Perfect. Okay. So I'm excited to be here with you all today. I have worked at Green Building Alliance for 11 years, and I am on my own green cleaning journey. So this is something that I really enjoy continuing to learn about and experiment with because I think it's really important. And so I do have what hopefully is some new and interesting information for you today. I want to thank some of our partners at Women for a Healthy Environment because they helped us with this content, and Ellen Conrad at Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy as well for helping develop this content. And Deanna Reynolds from my team is here. So if there happen to be any questions that you ask throughout the presentation that we can't answer in the moment, then Deanna will make sure we get those answers for you in the future. So I'm going to kick it off with the vision of Green Building Alliance and a little bit about why we think this topic is really important. So our vision at GBA is that every building and every community is sustainable so that every person can thrive. And the reason we have a stake in the game of green cleaning essentially is that the built environment has a huge impact not only on the natural environment, but also on our health as people who use buildings. We spend about 90% of our time inside, and anything that we introduce to our indoor environment can impact our health. So that might be the paints that we're using, the furniture that we bring into our homes, but certainly absolutely our cleaning supplies. Anything that we're using in our home kind of gets concentrated in our house, and we're breathing it in. And so it's really important for us and for our families that we make sure we are being thoughtful about the products that we're cleaning with, particularly if you have sensitive folks or kids living or pets living in your home. And the main message that I want to get across is that, I think it's obviously really important that we keep our homes clean, but we don't want to present new problems and issues into our homes, especially, as Kiyomi said, we started this series during COVID-19, and that was because we became really concerned that during COVID, during the high COVID time of the pandemic, if people were going to be, worrying about the spread of coronavirus and using really harsh chemicals to clean, in order to temper the spread, that they were going to introduce longer term, health issues due to the products they were using. So I just wanted to ask if, you want to pop something in the chat. I'll give everybody a couple of minutes, or you can just unmute yourself and holler. What comes to mind when you think about green cleaning?
Making your own products.
I love that. Anything else?
Chemical free.
Yeah, chemical free. I was about to say natural and natural.
Vinegar.
Yes. I love
Vinegar,
it.
a big one for me, vinegar and baking soda.
That's great. I love it. We're going to talk about a lot of those things, and we're going to talk about, making your own. We're going to talk about vinegar and baking soda. So that's great. Thank you. So what we'll talk about is a little bit of 101, talk about dispelling a couple of myths, and then cleaning in what I'm calling post-COVID world, but also right now we're in the middle of cold and flu season too, or the beginning of it. So I thought it was worthwhile to go ahead and talk about that a little bit and then where to get started. One thing that I'll note is that I am going to talk a little bit about some suggestions for making your own cleaning products, but if the folks on this call have done that before, then I think it'd be so fun if we share our own. And so maybe at the end, if you have made your own products or if you have tips for others, then I think that'd be super fun. And I'll share some as well. So a couple of misconceptions generally, around green cleaning is that some people worry and are concerned that they don't work or they're not as effective as more traditional cleaning products. That they're expensive, or that any product that you might buy that is, approved to be for sale on the shelf of your local store is fine and safe and FDA approved, and they wouldn't sell it if it wasn't unsafe. So the first one we'll talk about is that green products don't work. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with the fragrance. I think that we might be really used to cleaning products that have a fragrance or a smell. Maybe it's pine, maybe it's lemon, maybe it's even the smell of bleach, where if you can smell it, then you know it's working. And that is something that we want to talk about, because really your products don't have to have a smell. Oftentimes what we say, really with a lot of different volatile organic compounds or cleaning supplies, if you can smell it, that's usually a bad thing. That means that they're they have added something into the cleaner that is not good for us to be breathing. So fragrance often is the thing that might signal to us that we think it's working, but it also maybe is being used really just to cover up smells, and fragrance can be very toxic. So we will talk about essential oils a little bit later, but in general, you want to steer clear of those fragrances and those smells. So just because you can't smell it doesn't mean it's not working. A lot of times, if you can't smell it, that's better. We will talk about vinegar later, which I think is different, because obviously vinegar has a smell, but an addition of fragrance is not healthy for us to be breathing inside. The next one is, and we'll call this a misconception, but I do think there is truth to it, is that green products are expensive or too expensive. So a couple of things just to touch on there is that looking at some traditional products versus some greener cleaners, you can see there is a little bit of a difference. I think that this Eco's laundry detergent, maybe that one's a little bit bigger than this Tide, but some of these are more expensive, particularly Myers and 7th Generation can be a little pricier. The major thing to note about something like Castile soap, which does have a really high price tag there, is that it's concentrated. And so there certainly are cleaners that you can purchase that are concentrated, or that you might be adding to hot water or to vinegar, and you can make it last a lot longer. So what I think I might want you all to come away with from this presentation is, number one, that your cleaning products really are connected to your health and the health of your family. So you want to be really thoughtful about what you use, but also that there may not be a perfect one right way to go about it. It may be just a little bit of scaling back on certain harsher things, and maybe, mixing and matching green cleaners with making your own products to make it more affordable. So I think there are multiple ways that we can go about this. I'm going to look. Oh, nice. Devon says Dr. Bronner's is great. And I love Dr. Bronner's because you can use it like in the shower, you can use it on your dishes, you can use it to clean things. So it's kind of nice because you can use so many, use it for so many applications. And that's what comes up next here in terms of saving money. So while a certified or labeled green cleaner might be more expensive than your typical cleaning products that you might find, one note is that we can think about using fewer products overall. So you don't always need your kitchen cleaner, your bathroom cleaner, your floor cleaner. You could purchase, for example, something like Dr. Bronner's or something else and concentrate, or a large bottle of one product, and you can use it in all of your different rooms. So even though your kitchen cleaner might have a degreaser and your bathroom cleaner might have lime scale remover, you don't necessarily need a single thing, you know, your own bottle of cleaner for every single application. And this is something that I actually do in daily life in other places as well. I think it's actually fun, you know, and economical to think about, well, what one product could I use in multiple ways rather than buying others? So another example of that is using conditioner to shave your legs rather than buying shaving cream, or using a little bit of face lotion to remove makeup rather than buying makeup remover, because you're just using fewer products overall, and there are ways to make them last longer. So that's certainly true. And then, like we talked about with Dr. Bronner's and other types of concentrated, a lot of times what you're paying for when you're purchasing a cleaner is the water and the shipping that goes into that. So it's just a matter of, you know, think about the quality of the product and what's in the product rather than buying something that's going to be mostly water. Here's the big thing where we get concerned about health and just ensuring that we're not introducing harmful toxins into our homes. So I do think that it is certainly understandable that we might think, oh, if it's for sale at the store, then it must, you know, it must be approved by someone for cleaning purposes, and it has to be safe for us to use. But in the United States, we do have a really lax approach, you know, in terms of regulating substances and ingredients. And so a lot of cleaning products are not required by federal law to carry a full list of their ingredients. And something that we are working on within the green building industry is transparency in all types of products, whether they be green building products or other types of consumer products. We want transparency. We want to know what ingredients are in this cleaning supply, you know, cleaner, or what ingredients are in this building material, so that then we can make decisions for ourselves if we think, you know, that we want to expose ourselves to those ingredients. In cleaners, it may often be a trade secret, particularly when you have the word fragrance on a bottle of cleaner. That means that it can be kind of a trade secret and proprietary, and they don't have to share what goes into the fragrance. So the Toxic Substances Control Act of 1976 essentially grandfathered in about 60,000 substances that were already in widespread use. And they were just like, we're going to call those safe and move on, basically. And so there are just a lot of substances that are not controlled or regulated. And I would say that from what I understand, year after year, we start to discover, you know, the negative health impacts of more and more products that we didn't realize before. And so we might as well attempt to avoid anything that we're unsure of. So of course, the Green Building Alliance, when we prioritize our work, we're thinking of the environmental impact as well as the human impact. So toxins that you find in your cleaning supplies not only can harm, you know, the users of the building that they're being used in, but they also have an effect on the environment, which we want to avoid, especially aquatic life. And they can have a high carbon footprint. So a little note, you know, on what we're concerned about in terms of health, that different types of products have asthmagens, carcinogens, and endocrine disruptors. I was actually surprised because I've always sort of thought of borax as, you know, a relatively safe product that we might use that was more on the natural side, but that's actually not recommended because it can be a potential endocrine disruptor. So some of this can get into the weeds in terms of, you don't want to spend all of your time reading all of the ingredients on your cleaning supplies, because there are probably so many ingredients that we may not be familiar with. And so that can get a little bit overwhelming, I think. And so what we really like are resources where consumers can search for products that are sort of rated and deemed to be safer for human health and the environment. So a couple of good resources for that is the Environmental Working Group has a listing not only of cleaners, but of like sunscreens and shampoos and all sorts of things that you might want to just check and make sure you're using things that are safe for you to use. And then here, the Safer Choice, the EPA has a Safer Choice it's a searchable directory where, as you can see, you can look for cleaners, but you can look for all sorts of other things, and just check the list and say, okay, I have found an affordable product that I think I want to try. It looks green. Can I put it in this website and see, or simply search the website and get a list? One thing that we recognized and sort of discovered during high COVID is that you obviously want cleaners that are going to be safe for you, but the balance of that, when there is a virus or cold season or flu season, you want it to also be effective, because you do want to make sure that you that your cleaners are working as well. So there's safe, there's effective, and then there's safe and effective. And there is, I think, like what I would say, a relatively small overlap between the EPA's list of what's safe for people to use and what is effective against killing germs. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. So we've kind of gone over some of these misconceptions that a lot of you probably already are beyond, but green products don't work or are not effective. They do work, and sometimes even better, but it can be a little bit of a balance to figure out what's right for you. Green products are expensive. That is true sometimes, but they're often higher quality. And what we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes is labels and making sure that a third party has verified that your product is safer to use than an alternative. And I think that is where the real value comes in, but also that there are a lot of different ways to avoid paying that higher price tag. And we'll also talk about some more of those. And then really and truly just not assuming that the products that you're buying off the shelf are safe and have been approved as, not being harmful to humans. So in terms of cleaning in post-COVID, during flu season, during cold season, we do want to make sure that people get effective cleaning and disinfecting so that we're not all spreading all of our germs, especially with kids back to school and things like that. So just a little bit of level setting here between cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. Cleaning is when you're removing dirt and from your surfaces. And usually this can be done with soap and water, and you're physically removing germs. You're not necessarily killing germs, but by removing them, it can lower the risk of spreading infection. Sanitizing can lower the number of germs on surfaces. They don't necessarily eliminate all germs, and they're required for certain contexts, like in food service. Disinfecting is typically using chemicals to kill germs, like the bacteria and viruses. And disinfectants are considered antimicrobial pesticides and are registered by the EPA. Most disinfectants are going to require a dwell time of 5 to 10 minutes to kill the targeted germs. And we're going to talk about kind of the best way to disinfect. So the recommendation, and we followed during COVID, we were very closely following all of the recommendations coming out on green cleaning. And the main recommendations were around only disinfecting high touch surfaces. So you can probably guess those are your doorknobs, your handles, your light switches, anything that is going to be touched multiple times by multiple hands, throughout the day. Most often, in public places, we're thinking schools and our workplaces. And so you want to reduce your, if you can, your high touch surfaces. One way to do that is a lot of businesses during COVID went to, automatic doors so that you didn't have to touch a doorknob, or you could do light sensors, which are great for energy efficiency and also reduce the light switches that you have to touch. But just remembering that not everything has to be disinfected, and you really want to focus any disinfection on very specific areas where you're concerned about germs spreading. And I do think that is, perfectly acceptable. Oh, I'm sorry, my little arrows, sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. So, we have really learned how COVID has spread, and this is, similar to other types of viruses spreading through respiratory droplets, airborne. And so there are multiple ways that we can reduce the risk of transmission that have been, discovered and narrowed down over the past 4 years, some of which is ensuring that we're disinfecting high touch surfaces. So I kept this in here, even though this was originally shared during high COVID, because we are still having spread of coronavirus, and because we're in cold and flu season. This is the recommendation. And one thing that I want to say here, this is really focused on, we're focusing this presentation on green cleaning in your home. But if you are any type of decision maker in a business or in a commercial building, I also encourage people to really think about janitorial and custodial staff and what products they are using to clean, because we really want to make sure that those employees are also not being exposed to harsh chemicals. If a custodial or janitor staff has to wear a mask or PPE to apply cleaner, I think that is too harsh. And so I think that we want to be thinking about those staff members as well. And so if you are part of a company or business that has cleaning services, make sure that your custodial staff is also using green cleaning. So effective and responsible cleaning and disinfecting. Choose green cleaning products that are certified. We'll talk about that in a minute. Definitely promoting hand washing over hand sanitizing when you can. Select the disinfectants on EPA's list N that have safer active ingredients. So we'll share that list with you, but I do think, again, for your typical homeowner or tenant who's looking for products, going through list N might be a little bit overwhelming. And so I think using some of the labels that we'll go over in a minute makes things a little bit easier. And then choosing certified green hand soaps. So in terms of getting started, the first thing, and this I think can be true for a whole lot of different types of consumer products, is reading your labels. I mentioned the Safer Choice website through the EPA, but the Environmental Working Group is really great. They keep everything up to date in terms of their ratings. And essentially, if you're searching for cleaning supplies, they tend to have a rating on a number scale of maybe, let's say 1 through 5 or 1 through 10, where 1 is the best in terms of, impact on your health, and 10 would be the worst. And so sometimes what I do is I try to at least stay and hover around a 5 or below. Sometimes my favorite products that I thought were so sustainable didn't end up being a 1 like I anticipated, but maybe they were a 3 or a 5. So just kind of getting your number down on the Environmental Working Group, because you know that the lower the number, the better it's going to be for your exposure. Another thing is just like keeping an eye on these red flags, and a lot of cleaning products, probably even the green cleaning products do have some sort of warnings about keeping, out of reach of children. But anytime that you see types of words like this, like warning, danger, caution, corrosive, hazard, fragrance, the fragrance isn't necessarily a warning, but it's like, it does give you a little information about what might be in there. I really think this is worth a second look if you're seeing words like this. One thing I think might be important to bring up is you might think to yourself, okay, but if I'm cleaning my bathroom or my toilet, I really feel more comfortable using something like bleach. Like I said at the beginning, there may not be a perfect answer. It may be a little bit of mix and match and slowly making improvements. So I think if you want to use bleach in your toilet, I would just recommend doing it, keeping any kids or animals out of that room, and absolutely opening a window or running a fan for ventilation. But like I said, it's a personal choice, and I want to make sure, it remains that way, whatever is best for you. There can be some greenwashing. We see this in all types of consumer products. So I think the difference here is you might see words like this on a bottle of detergent or on a cleaner, but what you really want to be looking for is labels. So versus the words that might be used that might be saying the things that you want to hear, the labels are the most important, because this means that a third party has verified that it's safer and healthier than the alternative. So Green Guard is one that you will see a lot. Safer Choice is one that you will see a lot. Green Seal, biodegradable, and or free of a specific type of ingredient. And then fragrance free, again, is great. And particularly if you are looking at a list of ingredients, then, you know, in a cleaner, I don't think we can always assume that we'll be able to read the ingredients, but if it's a shorter list of ingredients, that's better rather than just a whole long array of ingredients. Again, these trusted brands are ones that we do think are, you know, valid and have been vetted. And then using, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on this cloth, microfiber cloth, is also a really great way to get a good deep clean. So again, these are brands that we think are valid and have been vetted. And then these are some of the websites that I had suggested. Green Seal is great, Safer Choice is great, Environmental Working Group. And what's really nice about those is, again, you can search for the different types of cleaners you're looking for, and you might find something new, and you can kind of mix and match your choices to pick what's best for you. And then ditch unnecessary or harmful products. So we're reading labels before we buy them. We are, you know, essentially opting to use vetted brands, and then we can get rid of some things. So I would advise against air fresheners or scented candles. That fragrance can be toxic and really bad for your indoor air quality. Disposable wipes, you know, can be wasteful, and they've got too much bleach in there. Fabric softener is not necessary. Antibacterial soaps. This one is tricky because I think a lot of times during cold and flu season, we want to reach for the antibacterial soap, but there is an ingredient in a lot of antibacterial soap that can be harmful to human health. Heavy duty drain and oven cleaners, and aerosols, which are really bad to use. One of my favorite tips for drains will come later when we talk about baking soda, which I'm sure some of you already know about. Okay, so here's kind of the fun and creative part. And I would love to hear some of your tips as well. So a couple of notes is that a lot of us have non-toxic, you know, very safe products at home that we can put to use in our cleaning. But I do want to put a disclaimer out here. You shouldn't always just go mixing ingredients on your own, because some ingredients don't mix well together. So I would advise you to do your research and look up recipes from trusted websites to make sure that you're not accidentally gonna create your own, you know, issues from mixing the wrong things. And I also suggest testing a small sample of whatever type of at-home cleaner you make. You really should do this with any cleaner, but if you're going to clean, let's say, your hardwood floors, take a little tiny bit and attempt to clean a little spot to make sure that there's not going to be a reaction. Oh, thank you for putting those links in. I appreciate it. So I love that, like, a couple of you already mentioned vinegar and baking soda, because these are do-it-yourself green cleaning heroes. And the more, this is more, you know, sort of personal, but the more I've experimented with these two products, the fewer new cleaning supplies I have purchased. So what's great about both of these individually and sometimes together, you can clean your windows, your showers, your tubs, your sinks, your faucets, your appliances, your laundry. You can clean your dishwasher, your countertops, your microwaves. So these can kind of do it all. And I just love this. So one thing I will mention about, I want to go into two little tiny stories here. One is that for drain cleaners, they were suggesting that you don't buy heavy duty drain cleaners. A lot of what we think about in green cleaning, but also in integrated pest management, which I think is connected to green cleaning, is you always want to go to the root of the problem. So if your sink is not draining, if you just dump Drano down your drain and then hope for the best and walk away, you are, number one, not addressing the main issue, because there's a clog in there that you know should be removing, and number two, horrible for the environment, horrible for you to breathe in. So I have taken to, with my drains, you got to go deep, go in there. They have some really cool tools for sort of digging deep into your drains, pulling out whatever is stopping up the drain. And then if you put in a combination of baking soda and vinegar, it'll bubble up a good bit. So you have to be ready for that. You let it sit and then you pour in hot water afterwards. And that really does the trick. So I do not buy drain cleaner anymore. Another thing I just want to mention, because like I said, sometimes integrated pest management and green cleaning go hand in hand. I have found that vinegar has done wonders against ant issues. So last summer I was getting ants, as a lot of people do in Pittsburgh. And I had my cat food on the dining room floor, and it was on a mat, but that was a hardwood floor and it was near a window. And there are so many ways that you could get rid of ants, right? And a lot of them are really bad for the environment and for your kids and your pets. So I thought, okay, I've got this ant problem and I need to, number one, figure out what is attracting the ants. And then number two, use, sort of a greener, non-toxic method for getting them out. So the problem, as you can guess, was the cat food. And it was on that hardwood floor, which was very holdy and had a lot of exposure, and it was right next to a window. So I moved the cat food into the kitchen, which is on a tile floor, not near any doors or windows. And so I haven't had an issue since then. And I wiped down, even though they do say you are not supposed to use vinegar on hardwood floors, I wiped the whole entire area with vinegar because ants hate vinegar. And that did the trick for me. And all it took was some vinegar and moving the cat food. And so I do kind of love that. I think there's so many fun things we can do with our own at-home supplies. So here's one sample, and then I would love to see if anybody else has additional samples. So to clean your faucets, you can combine 2 teaspoons of vinegar, 1 teaspoon of salt to remove any calcium deposits. And it can remove hard water stains from shower heads. For stubborn stains, you can spray your fixtures with the vinegar and then tie a bag around it overnight and then scrub and rinse it in the morning. I've also heard of combining a little bit of vinegar and baking soda till it becomes a paste and using that to scrub your bathtubs. But the one thing I want to mention, I think I have this, I'll put it somewhere. One thing I want to mention is that vinegar is not meant for everything and baking soda is not meant for everything. So there is a list. If I didn't put it in the slides, then I'll share it afterwards. But there is a list that I have found of things that you should not clean with vinegar. And baking soda can be abrasive. And so I'd hate for you to scrub something with baking soda and then have abrasion issues. So this will require some research just to make sure that you're, mixing the right products and that you're using the right thing on something that is appropriate, that isn't going to do any damage. But these 2 things are inexpensive. And in fact, this is exactly what I buy. I buy the big bag of baking soda because I'm using it in my cooking and I'm using it in my cleaning. And I buy usually 2 big jugs of vinegar, and these are inexpensive. We often have them in our houses anyway. We're using them for cooking as well. And so it goes a long way. So I would love to hear, I'm going to take a minute here. Does anybody else have fun at-home green cleaning recipes that they want to share or like tips?
So I don't necessarily know the ratio, but for baking soda and vinegar, it's really good in terms of getting smelly things out, right? So for those of us that might be pet owners or have cats like I do at home, cat pee is probably the worst smell in the entire world, and it is so potent. But if you use a little bit of that, like on your furniture or in your laundry, it really helps to get the smell out.
It's a good one. Anybody else?
We do have a comment and question in the chat if nobody else happens to have any other hot tips for green cleaning at home that they want to share.
Okay, great. Let's hear it.
Okay, so one of the comments that we had shared was just about an app that the EWG has. So they just mentioned that the EWG has an app that may maybe make it a little bit easier when you're actually in the store. And there's also an app called Think Dirty that has a barcode scanner, which makes it super easy to look at products on the go while you're in the store.
That is such a good tip because I have panicked before. I've literally been in the store, like frantically searching the Environmental Working Group website because like before buying something, and having the app would be really great. Cause I just remember thinking, why didn't I look before I came? Because it's, can be overwhelming. That is great.
Yeah, so that app again, so they mentioned the EWG, but then also the one app is called Think Dirty for those at home that want to look it up and download it. And then also we had a question about if anyone happened to know about what kind of cleaning products would be good on the surface of an induction stove. So this person had heard that you shouldn't use harsh chemicals because it could mess with the seal. They've heard that Dawn dish soap is not sufficient enough, and they're a little worried that vinegar might count as harsh.
Yeah, that is interesting because I was going to recommend Dawn dish soap. Yeah, and vinegar, I do think there was, oh, here we go. I actually did write it down. Let me see what, I think I wrote down some things that you don't want to clean with vinegar, but now I'm not finding it. We might look into that, Deanna, if you want to write that one down, because I'm not sure about stovetops, if vinegar would be okay or not.
Okay, I'll take that down.
Thank you. Yeah, if the word is the Dawn dish soap is not clean, is not good enough, then yeah, we might look into that for you. But I've written that down. The other thing to note is you might be wondering what to do with your cleaners that do have harsh chemicals. There are probably two schools of thought. One is, okay, I paid for this, maybe I'll use it until it's empty, but then when it's time to purchase a new product, I'm gonna go in a different direction. The other is, okay, this is, especially if you've got sensitive folks in the house, you might say, okay, I'm done with this. It's not, this is too harsh for my household. I need to get rid of it. Either of those things are fine. If you want to get rid of your unwanted products, you would look into the Pennsylvania Resource Council because they've got really great resources for anything that needs to be disposed of that should not be poured down the drain. Or thrown away and disposed of just into the landfill. So certainly I would recommend, for health purposes, calling PRC, having them pick up any products you don't want and starting fresh. However, particularly economically, if you're like, I spent $7 on that, like I'm not going to get rid of it now. You just use what is left in the bottle. And then when it's time to replace your cleaning supplies, and sometimes you're doing it in a step-by-step approach. Like I ran out of laundry detergent and I said, okay, before I buy new laundry detergent, I'm going to try the little pods that come in a tin without the plastic bottle. And so that was simply an opportunity because I had already run out of detergent. And so sometimes it works to just think about what is the next thing I'm going to run out of? How do I replace that first? That would be a good approach. Any questions or other tips here? Anything that you want me to go more in depth on? Are there any other things in the chat, Kiyomi?
No other things in the chat here in Zoom or in Facebook. Anybody else, feel free if you would like to drop it in the chat or if you would like to unmute yourself. Do you have any other questions? I know this was a lot of information. This was a lot of really great information. So we are live streaming this. You can catch this again back on our Facebook page, and then we will also upload this to our YouTube page so you can go back and watch again.
And I think it could be fun if folks are up for it, Kiyomi, if people in the future discover like at-home green cleaning recipes or a product that they find at the store that they really like, I think it could be fun to share those things, because I do that with my family. We share our recipes that we discover. And so I think that could be nice moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We have some people saying that they really enjoyed being able to make their green cleaning kits. And I know we've talked about maybe trying to do this in person sometime in the future. So we would love to have y'all that are watching at home be able to join us in person and be able to make some of those kits and then be able to share some of your tips.
Sounds great. I think the things that I'll leave folks with, other than all the details on this slide, is really thinking about if there is a cleaning issue that you have, really identifying if there's a problem first that can help reduce the issue. So one example is like mold and mildew in a shower. And that'll always build up. But if you dry your shower every single time you finish, you just wipe it down with a washcloth, that will reduce the amount of mold and mildew buildup, because it's reducing the amount of water that's sitting on the tiles. And then it won't be as hard to clean, and you won't need as harsh of a chemical to clean it. And similar to my ant issue, find that problem first, solve the ongoing problem, and then find the solution that's not going to be as harsh or as necessary. And so just taking a thoughtful approach and just doing what you think is best for your household.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Does anybody else have any last minute comments or thoughts or questions?
This was, oh, let me turn my TV down. This was very informative. I really appreciated this today.
I'm so glad. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. I always enjoy this reinforcement of just trying to keep your home as healthy as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a
Saving
beginner
money.
for me. It was a beginner for me, so I needed to know all the tips and products I could use.
Oh, good. That's so good.
Well, Leslie, thank you so much. And thank you everybody who joined us here on Zoom and on Facebook. Oh, I see my mom just logged in. So, hey, Mom, thank you also for joining us. But we really appreciate your time. We look forward to having y'all back again. And then for everybody here who is in attendance, I will make sure to be reaching out to y'all to get you your green cleaning kits. And then, yeah, we can all be a little bit greener together. So thank you all so much again.
Great. Thanks.
Thank
Kim.
you. Good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.